James West is here.
James West? I do not think I know him.
Oh, you will.
To put it simply, it's James Bond on horseback.
I'm always very careful about how I use the term camp, because some people use it in a way that doesn't correlate with what it means.
Ross Martin with Wild Wild West. Isn't it great to be in a hit?
Oh, it's a delight.
Good. Well, it's a great show. Both of you have great shows, and I'm
Fun to do.
It was an action piece. It was escapism fare. It's everything right and good about TV.
James, my boy, there's a rope that's rotten to the core.
Miguelito the First and his consort. Actually, gentlemen, I'm delighted that you were able to drop by and witness this most historic occasion.
Hello, and it's another Chat Schmat. And this week, we're talking about the Wild Wild West. Yes, James, my boy, strap yourself in, because it's time for another episode. Hello, everybody. Yes, we're back, and joining me on this expedition is, as usual, Neil Stringer and our very, very special guest, Ian Lawther. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
Hey guys, can't wait for this one. It's going to be a blast.
And so, yes, we're talking about the 1960s TV series, not to be confused with the 1990s Will Smith film, although we will get to that in another episode. This is concerning ourselves with the one from the 60s, the CBS TV series. And I think the first place to start, before we even get into talking about the show, and I think we're going to turn to Ian for this, who's got a special tome and setup, and he's going to be our expert for this. But essentially, Ian, what is the show?
To put it simply, it's James Bond on horseback. It follows two secret agents in the Wild West, forwarding plans to take over the country, and all sorts of weird and wacky adventures follow.
If I remember correctly, in the first season, which is in black and white, there's more emphasis on being secret, isn't there? Whereas later on, they just don't care.
The first series in '65 started in black and white, and then from the second season on, they moved to color. And some people would say, there was a correlation between going into color and the stories becoming a bit more out there at times. And it did change producers, as far as I know, as well. So,
yeah, I mean, yeah, because we'll get into the sort of the details of it all. But essentially, the creator and executive producer died in an accident during the making of it, and another producer came in, and took over the show. Now, it's fair to say Bruce Lansbury wanted to get involved in stuff like that. When he was getting into TV. Now, obviously, we've seen this when we've been watching shows like Man from U.N.C.L.E. and stuff like that. When they move into color and it moves towards the 70s, further up the 60s, the tone does shift, doesn't it, into more out there material.
I would also say that, was it trying to compete with Batman with its tone as well, with its more, when it went to color, with the more outlandish storylines and camper tone in the style.
It probably was. It probably was, Neil. It never got, or very rarely did it get to the sort of camp of Batman.
Oh,
but it
definitely
certainly
not.
did. But it did try and put it did try and go in that direction a few times, but that was a great thing. You know, some of the stories would go a bit camper, and then the next week you'd be back to more sort of traditional
Yeah.
elements. So I think they were testing the water a lot of the times, you know?
And I would, and I'm always very careful about how I use the term camp because some people use it in a way that doesn't correlate with what it means. Whereas Batman, the example of its humor and style stories did fall into camp. Whereas
Yeah.
I think with Wild Wild West, it wasn't camp in that nature because it wasn't
No.
purposely trying to be a comedy. Because camp is about absurd humor and innuendo, and what was did not have that there, but what I think it did have was the outlandish stories that you have in say what they called spy-fi. They
Yeah.
genre like that the Man from Uncle um appeared in there. Well,
Yeah, that's a good one, actually. Yeah.
it was a spy show, but it had more almost sci-fi elements.
Yeah.
But with sci-fi elements, it made it more cyber, more steampunk
Yeah.
in an
And of
aspect.
course, the Wild Wild West is sort of credited to, you know, being one of the first shows to really, use steampunk. You know,
Because
Yes, because
I
it's
know
set in the Victorian era, so there's a lot of that sort of fashion crossover, isn't there, in it?
yeah,
and when I bring in the sci-fi aspect is one of the episodes from the first season had a villain who existed in accelerated time, which is very similar to what an episode of Star Trek done, where aliens exist at a higher rate of speed that we can't see them, which is almost very sci-fi-esque,
it
for
is.
a Western show.
Yeah, they do dip into sci-fi quite often. Even when they came back with the TV movies, there was sci-fi elements to it.
Well, good morning, James.
Hi, Artie.
Anything happening?
Oh, same old thing, just a different town.
Ah, Mr. West.
If I have a choice, may we go back to questions and answers? Whose turn was it, Miss Valentine?
It was an action piece. It was escapism fare. It's everything right and good about TV. You work all week and you can kick your shoes off and have a beer at 8 o'clock at night and watch escapism fare. That's what it was, and I was honored to have been able to do that show. Because camp, if you want to use that word, that's hard to do. It's not easy, And there's a fine line there between going overboard with it.
Ian, how did you become familiar with the series in the first place?
So growing up, I went to the cinema and seen the Will Smith movie, and of course, it was pretty much panned. I didn't at the time understand that it was a TV show beforehand. I just didn't know, so I just thought it was being panned as a bad movie. But it wasn't until God around 2013 when I started watching. I bought the box set and started watching the TV show that I realized why people were so angry at the Will Smith movie. So yeah, I was very sort of late in on the Wild Wild West, considering it was an old show, and I watched lots of sort of old classic shows, whether it be Star Trek, Mission Impossible, Twilight Zone. But the Wild Wild West I didn't see it on television a lot. Maybe it was repeated somewhere, but I certainly didn't come across it. So it was all new to me.
And what about yourself, Neil? How did you come to hear about the show?
Well, I've heard about it for a long time, but I never actually got around to seeing it because it's one of those shows that's been available in America, but it's never been available on DVD in Europe or UK. So
And
I
had you
haven't
seen the
actually had.
movie?
I never actually seen the movie. I still haven't seen the movie, and it's bizarre that I haven't seen the movie because obviously with Will Smith and the director Barry Sonnenfeld, they worked together on Men in Black, which was a film I loved, mean well, obviously, we say you want about the sequels that follow, but the first Men in Black was a lot of fun to watch, and at the time, I remember thinking that this could be good. You know, based on how they worked well together with Men in Black, but I don't know why, but somehow I never got around to seeing the Will Smith film. I think maybe the way the reviews and other films just prevented me from getting around to watching it.
Of course, we're going to be
So
rectifying that
yeah,
in our second Wild Wild West episode,
You can thank us
in which
later.
we will be we'll be covering the Will Smith film. For myself, I mean, I'd seen the show when I was a kid, but it was never since then it was never repeated. And as I say, about maybe 10 years ago or something, one of the digital channels, I think it was the horror channel, they showed some 60 shows like um, Star Trek and Time Tunnel and stuff like that. And I happened to see it on there, and I hadn't seen it on there. I hadn't seen it for years in the first place. So I was surprised, and hadn't thought anything more about it. And then, of course, we have been watching shows when the pandemic happened. We've been watching shows over Zoom, and we decided, that this would be one of the shows we continue the tradition of doing that, and this is one of the shows that we've been enjoying. And I hadn't seen it, as I say, in a long, long time, and noticing the difference between the black and white episodes and the color ones, was fascinating because I've noticed that in a lot of shows, apart from perhaps Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie, those two shows just seem to shoot black and white because that's what was available when they went to color. It's almost like that's what they were made for. So it is interesting, to sort of rewatch them again. Not only that, but the TV movies, we covered those as well. So, I mean, there's two categories of characters in this. There's the standout characters, and there's the recurring characters, and there's a crossover of standout characters and recurring characters, isn't there? I mean, Ian, I mean, who would you say, and we all know the answer to this, but who do you say would be the main standout, and I suppose therefore recurring character as well?
Ah, the arch nemesis, the villain, Dr. Lovelace, played by the amazing Michael Dunn, would have to be my pick there.
well, it's such a tragedy that Michael Dunn had died so young because he was pretty amazing, when I see them in. Because prior to seeing him as Dr. Lovelace, I remember him as Alexander in the Star Trek episode Plato's Stepchildren, where he played, and it's the episode that's famous for the first interracial kiss, and his character was kind of bullied and used as gay, in jokes, from the habits of the planet, and he actually failed for his character, and when Kirk takes him aboard with him at the end, you really um felt for Alexander, and I thought that was due to Michael Dunn's performance, and seeing him as Dr. Lovelace in such a different type of role, you know, I just thought, it just showed the range that this guy had.
And speaking of Batman, there have been actors from that show on this as well, isn't there? Yvonne Craig was in it, wasn't she as well?
Burgess Murdoch was on the season one episode,
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
and
There's been
Victor
a few.
Bruno, best known as King Tut in Batman.
Yeah, he's probably the second most recurring. A
Although
second
he's not,
by a long way,
yeah.
because I think he's only like two or three. He's in it. I think it's the same character two times, and then I think he played a different character.
He played a different villain in the very first episode.
Yeah,
And then he was also in the one of the final episodes of TV movies.
he was. He played another
He
character
played
as well.
a Kissinger type character in there,
He did. He did.
where
But
he's
he
trying to
played
broker peace.
but he played the Count, who they were trying to turn into a major villain. I'm not quite sure why he didn't make more appearances, but
There's been quite a few guest stars that some were, not known at the time, but then later became famous, and some were jobbing actors that they were in lots of things, but then eventually, they were in regular series and things like that. So one example is Beverly Garland. She's been in several shows, 60s and 70s, but notably for us, she would have been the second actress to play Lois's mother in the New Adventures of Superman, and also she plays Laura's mum in a couple of episodes in Remington Steele. But she's been in loads of things over the years. Then, of course, obviously, there's Richard Pryor, who was very, very, very young. And then you have Sammy Davis Jr., who was on top of his game, And the Sammy Davis Jr. one was interesting because he was playing this character that could somehow affect horses or animals. He had some kind of like...
The Horse Whisperer?
Mental... Yeah, like some kind of mental ability. And the Richard Pryor one, he was like... he had a dummy, didn't he, or something? Wasn't he like a ventriloquist?
Yes, he was part of he part of the Counts?
He was one of his henchmen, if you like.
Yeah. That's right.
And yeah.
Count Mississippi.
So, yes. Who
Victor
was...
Bruno.
Robert Loggia appeared in a couple of different episodes. He was in like season 1 and then he appeared later on as well. He went on to be, big TV and Hollywood actor in later years as well.
It's amazing that, because we didn't watch the show when it aired and we've watched it now, the amount of people, the guest stars that you recognise, Martin Landau, Mission Impossible.
Richard Kiel was a sort of recurring character, I suppose you could say.
Yeah, he was like the henchman to Dr. Lovelace.
Pernell Roberts, who had been very big in the 60s in Bonanza.
Yep.
He was...
Harvey Korman.
Harvey Korman,
Yes.
another one. The legend that is Boris Karloff.
Yes, Boris Karloff was, he's popped up in a lot of shows then, but that was towards the end of his life.
Yeah, he played the Maharaja, I think, if I remember rightly.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he did. He was given some great lines too.
He was.
Humorous lines.
Ricardo Montalban,
And Robert Pine, wasn't he in it towards the end? Like a very young Robert Pine, the father of Chris Pine?
Yes. I think he was the first. He was the last season, wasn't he?
Yes.
I think he was in the last season.
Yeah.
But people like Robert Duvall, big Hollywood actor,
Absolutely.
But it's funny though, because there are shows that I remember watching in the 80s and 90s and didn't know the people at that time, and then they went on to be bigger and better actors, so
Yeah.
It does happen if you haven't watched a show for a while and you suddenly go, oh, so-and-so was in that,
Well, Robert Duvall was in a 2-part episode of The Outer Limits, and he was in an episode of The Twilight Zone as well. Mm-hmm. And this was the early 60s, he did those. But he had already done To Kill a Mockingbird at this point as well, because he was in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Harry Dean Stanton too was a big actor too around this time as well. He was known,
And
he did even later on do more stuff.
didn't Burgess Meredith play a character?
Yes, he
in-
was.
Yes.
Yeah,
He was he a professor?
Yes.
Was he? Yeah,
He was
professor.
doing those, he was the one. I was watching. He was doing the one with the earthquakes.
Yeah,
Oh yes,
that's
yes.
right.
And William Wyndham, he was in the one with the fake UFO.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most unique episodes of the series in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It is, because you look at that and you think, oh, are they going down the sci-fi route?
Yeah.
And then... But it's just, it is interesting though that there's so many of those actors pop up. Some of them, you've obviously seen in, if you watch a lot of 60s TV shows, they're jobbing actors that have popped up. Even William Shatner has been in so many shows, pre and post Star Trek.
Yep.
They're basically jobbing actors, and TV was a good source of income for them.
Absolutely.
And lots of actors who, you know, been in Star Trek as well. Some of them we already mentioned. Ray Walston was there. Susan Oliver. William
Oh, by
Shatner.
the way, just another one that came to mind there, because we were mentioning with Carter Montalban, Madeline Rue, who played Marlon MacGyver's in Space Seed, who later character who he fell in love with Khan, you know, in Space Seed, as referenced in the Wrath of Khan as his beloved wife.
Yes.
But he didn't see her, sorry, but she was referenced. But she was in an episode as well. Leslie Parrish, who was in the episode Who Mourns for Donuts, she was also in Batman. Well, I think she was one of the aliens. You know, one of the girls playing the aliens in the UFO episode.
Yes, I think she was actually in a couple of the episodes. But Sorrel Book was in a couple. Or we all know him as Boss Hogg from the Dukes of Hazzard, but he popped up in some episodes as well. So, you know, it's there's so many more people, but obviously those are ones that would be, especially Sammy Davis Jr. and Richard Pryor are interesting, because Richard Pryor was just starting out, where Sammy Davis was well known. He was part of the Rat Pack. He was a big star, and you know, I just think it's interesting. You know, you've got two ends of a career there.
You know, when you've got a show or shows that do maybe just one or two main actors, the guest star roles become that much more important, don't they? And
yes,
and this show had the who's who.
And
you know,
I noticed too in digging through for the interviews, Ross Martin appeared on a lot of game shows, and he did so to promote the show. And often in the game shows he would mention, you know, that he worked with certain people on the show. So I guess if the likes of Sammy Davis Jr. was in it, you know, he might well use that as a promotion for the show.
Absolutely.
You know, so there's that sort of thing is definitely a part of it. And the others, like Richard Pryor and Beverly Garland, who was quite young, I suppose, at the time, people like that, you know, they were that helped launch their career. I think that was Richard Pryor's first ever gig, and the other person, there was somebody else. Who was it I was going to mention? I was going to say
another one I remember watching again was Catherine Ross, who was in the Stepford Wives.
Yes,
Catherine Ross. Yeah,
Cassidy in the Subnexus.
Yes, and we've already mentioned.
She played Sheila,
Agnes
didn't she?
Moorehead,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agnes Moorehead, who won the Emmy. It was the only Emmy that the show won, and it was the episode that Agnes Moorehead was in, and she was famous for being in Bewitched. She played the sort of the mother-in-law, if you like, you know, Darren's
Leslie Nielsen was in an episode.
That's right. Yes, he played the sort of rogue agent in it, where he pretended to be on Jim's side, but really he was plotting and using them. You know, he was using them. But of course, he was known then for serious roles, so he was still in that mold. He
wasn't Frank Drebin yet. You know.
He wasn't Frank Drebin yet. No, no. Or what was his character in Airplane?
Dr. Rumack.
Dr. Rumack.
Yes, because that was really the role that kick-started the career for comedy.
Yeah, the thing is, that's because he had that gift, or Airplane did that thing where obviously Harry Sears actors delivering lines extremely seriously, and therefore that brought the comedy, and that's what, you know, led to, you know, Naked Gun and all the specific Les Nielsen later did.
Yep, indeed. So I think, you know, all being said, you know, there's a long list of people in the show that you know, really helped lift, you know, the performances in the show, because there are some TV shows and if I see an old film or something, you go, I don't know who that is, I don't recognize that person. I don't know who that is because they've done this one thing and that was it, and they never acted again. But you can't say that about this show.
No.
Well, Sam Wanamaker was in one as well. Don't forget Zoe's dad and Warfield.
Yes, and he was a director
Arculus,
too.
Dr. Arculus or something.
Yes.
Played? I can't remember.
Yes, he was.
Mm-hmm. But he directed a lot of TV shows as well as films, I should say. But yeah,
Lloyd Bachner. Lloyd Bachner was in the one.
Lloyd Bachner's another one. Yeah. He appeared in a lot of shows across the 60s and 70s and well, throughout his whole career. But
he did. He was in the episode that tried his own to serve man. He was also later one of the later roles we associate with him is the voice of Mayor Hill and Batman. The animated series was Lloyd Bachner.
Oh, all right. I didn't know that.
Love to see to be the only one who had the most appearances.
Yeah.
I guess in a way I guess he was the Joker to Jim West.
Yeah. Pretty much.
he fits in well, doesn't he, with the steampunk technology. The main characters, as part of the American government, have access to spy tech, that at the time it's set is very advanced, but is also incredibly 1960s in the way that it looks, which is why it gets the whole James Bond on horseback. But of course, as the villain, Lovelace is very clever, intelligent. He mixes, science and chemistry along with technology, doesn't he, to achieve his vicious ends. And he's one of those villains that kind of doesn't just want to shoot them in the head. He wants to tell them his goals and almost rub their noses in it and that sort of thing, isn't he?
He almost wants James and Artie to sort of congratulate him on being brilliant and evil, and he wants their respect in some ways.
Yes, because he doesn't really have proper family, and he knows that he's tried to kill them a few times and they've survived. So I guess in some way he sees them as worthy adversaries and things like that. So it is funny, when you see, of course, obviously, it's for TV reasons, it would be very boring for him just to wipe them out very quickly. But obviously, as a character, though, it's a little bit like the Master in Doctor Who. If he just, or even Davros or anyone like that, or the Klingons, in the original Star Trek, it's anyone. If you just kill them off, then you can't have them back, and you can't get the great dialogue that they had. And also, a bit like the Master, they tried to sort of, not as big as they used to do with the Master on some occasions, but they tried to hide that it was him. Sometimes it was kind of like a reveal that it was him, that it was Lovelace.
We should remember his two sidekicks. We had Richard Keel as Voltaire.
Phoebe Dorn.
There would be a week. Phoebe Dorn, that's it. She and Michael Dunn, I think it was Michael Dunn's idea to have her in the show because they would perform sort of, I think, cabaret and at different nightclubs together. So they would always put like a sing-along part in the episodes they're in together. They would have they like having a sing-along. So that was always unique to them. That was great.
And I always loved the how it sounded to the harpsichord because I kind of like the use of the harpsichord. Not in Wild West and in other 60s shows, I just kind of love the sound of the harpsichord.
Of course, as we were reading up on it, we discovered why she didn't stay on, and that was because he got married and the missus didn't approve. Isn't that right?
That's right. That's apparently so. Yeah, which is a shame. It really is because they were a great double act, whether it be on stage or on the show. So.
That's enough, Delilah, my pearl. For our purposes, this is sharp enough. Because I want them to realize who their true benefactor is. Me, Dr. Miguelito Lovelace, alias Robin Hood. 7 o'clock, time for supper. Would you do us the honor of joining us?
How can I resist?
Always the soul of tact, Mr. West. Voila! Soup's on. A yen for your thoughts, Mr. West. You don't dare touch me. Squab, gentlemen? Or would you rather eat crow? Oh, he's not dead, Mr. Gordon. But he'll wish he were. As usual, Mr. West, I always get my way. I appealed to you for financing, for my project to make all men equal in stature, and you laughed.
I did. Had it planned to increase the height of little men like you?
No. I plan to shrink the height of big men like you, and for turning down my project. Of course, death is the only possible verdict. Of course, Mr. West, there is something of the salmon in you. The fiercer, the more impossible the cataracts that face you, the more furiously you swim through them to win your goal. Delilah, now!
Ghosts can't talk.
It's a small world, Mr. West.
Dr. Lovelace, I think you're the smartest, kindest man in the whole world.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you.
Yeah, Michael Dunn was a 3 foot 8 inch, 79-pound dwarf, and a wonderful actor, and lived in New York. He was a singer. I had a club down in Florida, a nightclub in Florida, and he opened it for me. I was thrilled, and he and Phoebe Doran, which was his, I think it was, she was his love mate. I don't know if Phoebe's around, but I never got involved in their personal business. Anyway, when he came to Hollywood to do the show, we became friends. He stayed at my house. And one day my son came running into the bedroom, "Dad, Dad, Dad." And I said, "What?" He said, "There's this little man in my bed." I said, "Yeah, okay, so." And we played football, hard touch football every Saturday, and we'd play various teams. And the Wild West, of course, had his team. Of course, I'm proud to say was undefeated. And he would be on a golf cart, and he was the referee because he couldn't play because of his size. And he was very proud of his hands and his head and he said those were normal. And he allegedly told me another part of his body that was normal, but I didn't care to hear about it.
So, yeah, there was another character on the show who was the main star, and that is the train. Now,
Yes.
I believe the train is also a famous train. I don't think it's the same one that they used from the beginning, from the very first episode, but I think after that it's the same train. I think it's been used in other westerns, other TV shows and things, so it's almost a celebrity in itself. But in the beginning, it's almost like as if Q has decked out an Aston Martin. That's the impression they're giving of this train, that it's the government is giving them this as part of the cover to be this rich, character, but then it just becomes their office, doesn't it?
Really does. But again, it's a great way to, I suppose it's a great way to get them traveling, to different parts of the US.
They have weapons within it, don't they? They've got
they've got secret weapons everywhere. You've got panels in the walls that will reveal guns. You have the snooker table that has exploding snooker balls. You've got
telegram box.
The telegram box, and don't forget Artie's pigeons for communication. So
yes, that's another thing. The for a while they gave them all different names. You know, they sort of went through a phase of talking to the
Oh, they
pigeons
did.
and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But you know,
Isabella. I remember
yeah,
Isabella.
but you know, the thing about it is, like if that was today, that would be sending texts, or you know,
Yeah.
it'd be talking through like an earpiece or some, you know. Whereas when it was set, pigeons were the thing, you know. And I think what I liked about that is it was at least authentic. You know, whilst yes, there are certain things like the grappling hook out of a gun and the stuff inside the shoe that are all 1960s spy stuff, you know. Um, they did really try to they tried to keep it as historically accurate within reason, you know, as they could, because I find a lot of shows that do these things get it wrong, you know. And I'm not just talking about modern shows, you know, the shows in the past where they probably don't have time or energy or the money to make sure everything's historically accurate. At least, you know, when the BBC, when they said, you know, like when the BBC made something like say in episodes of sci-fi shows or Doctor Who or kids shows that didn't have a big budget, the historical stuff always looked great because that's what they did best. They had a great wardrobe department. They had people who could make great props. Whilst the future stuff probably was a bit rubbish, they could always do that. And if you can make that convincing enough, you can sell it, you know. And one of the things as well, which I think is important, is that Robert Conrad said in more recent interviews that that he didn't think it was a Western. But the problem is, I get where he's coming from, but it definitely was, because they're on horses for a start, and they do clean up the town in quite a lot of places, don't they? So he might want to fight that, but there is that.
If I remember rightly, he said because they're not tending cattle, wasn't that it or something?
Yes, it was. Yeah, they're not actual cowboys. Is his reason?
I mean,
for it.
he's not like a John Wayne type. Get off your horse and drink your milk type. You know, he's not that
No,
kind of.
it's not the High Chaparral,
No.
you know, which we come later. It's not that sort of show, or Bonanza. So yes, all right, it's not. They're not
He's not
working on a farm, but it's got the tropes of westerns: the gunslinging, the horses, the you know, villains coming into town. You know, he is essentially a marshal when he goes into those places, and he also has to deal with the marshal when he's there, and sometimes it is like a bounty hunter.
And the marshals are usually idiots.
But no westerns, you're going to see Mechanical Man, some more highbrow science fictiony stuff.
Chemical warfare.
Chemical warfare. No,
Yeah.
it's not the kind of, it's more
Underwater,
it's
wasn't there like an
Atomic
underwater
bombs.
sort of city at one
atomic
point?
bombs. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
If love was had a bomb that was going to destroy the whole city, you wouldn't have that in your typical
And
western.
of course, it wasn't intentional, but in a few episodes, there was an airplane
Mm.
in the sky just from where they were filming, I guess.
Yeah, that's a blooper, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Our new coat.
No problem at all.
Hold it right there. Upon my word, gentlemen, that was well done.
Hey, Arabella, there you are, dear. Did you have a nice flight, huh? Everything go well? It must be word from the Bureau you were asking for. There you are. Everything well with you, girl? Talk to Hawks, huh?
Here it is, Artie.
Hello there, Henrietta, sweetheart. How are your pin feathers, huh? You just hold on to them, sweetheart, because by this time tomorrow,
you'll be dead.
All right, Henrietta. Time for you to go to work, sweetheart. Here we are. That's a good girl. That's fine. Carry the little message back home. Now, whatever you do, sweetheart, don't stop to talk to any hawks.
Well, everything Western about it. I mean, there were I wasn't wrangling cows anywhere. We weren't, bringing the herd and all the cattle across. John Wayne wasn't there. It was just a whole little gadgets, and I was supposed to be the first Secret Service agent working for the president. And we always had these beautiful women. Oh my gosh. I just got a correspondence from a guy named Javier from France, and he listed how many fight sequences I had and how many women. And I'm just throwing these numbers around because I didn't memorize it, but it's like 143 women I kissed and 118 fights, or vice versa. I can't remember now. Who likes action could have more fun doing 118 fights, and I never met a woman I didn't like. I mean, to go to work and kiss a woman, are you serious? Hello?
A lot of the time they shared the set with Gunsmoke, which was a Western, because of it was filmed in CBS backlot, and the locations as well, so, and there was a lot of ducking behind rocks and shooting, so if that doesn't make it a Western, I don't know what would. Westerns are not just about tending cattle, but it is interesting because obviously it is called Wild Wild West as well. Just to talk about the producer for a moment, the Michael Garrison was the main showrunner and the creator of the series, and he was heavily involved in it up until season 2, was it, or 3?
2, I think it was.
I think it was 2.
Yeah, I'm just looking here to see.
From what I understand, I think he was maybe clashing with the studio because things were going a bit over budget on the show. Which Robert Conrad said in an interview is one of the reasons he done a lot of his own stunts. It kept the costs down. I don't know if, again, I'm not 100% sure how true that is. I know he definitely done his own stunts, but the reason why Garrison left, I'm not 100% sure.
The issue with these shows is that, and it's very evident in the research and the books and things that have been written since about Columbo, is that there's always this battle between the creator and the studio, because the studio wants you to churn it out and get the show on air, whereas the creator, and sometimes, in the case of Columbo, he didn't create the show, but he created the character in the sense of the portrayal of it, and had a lot of authority in that side of it. So I think with it being a new show, they had an idea of what that sort of show should cost. But obviously, because it's more than just a Western, more than just a sci-fi show, it had to have, if you look at it, like, yes, there's a lot of studio stuff, but there's also location stuff. There's a lot of props, even the train itself, costumes, so if especially back then, the heads of the studios are more conservative as well, and conservative creatively. I mean, they don't want things to run away. So I could fully understand that being the case. Obviously, we weren't there. I have seen a few interviews with Robert Conrad, and I think that's what he's getting at. He's saying, and I'll play some clips because I have some of the interviews, and I'll find some more of him talking about it as well in amongst us talking. But yeah, he seemed to point to that. And what happens with these shows, and same with the movie, if the director is making things go over budget and there's creative differences, they bring in somebody else. But of course, something did happen, tragically happened to him, in the process, didn't it?
Yes, I believe it was him. And who else was involved, Johnny? It was...
Series was in production on its second season when, while preparing for a party at his new Bel Air home on the 17th of August 1966, Garrison slipped in some water on a flight of stairs, falling and fatally fracturing his skull.
Oh, right, okay.
So that's what unfortunately happened. So then they brought in Bruce Lansbury to, take on producer duties.
Yeah.
And he also took on Man from U.N.C.L.E. and also Mission Impossible. He wasn't the original producer of those shows.
Yeah.
On the first season, another producer I've seen on the quest is Fred Freiberger, who is more infamously known as the series killer because he was the producer on the final season of Star Trek and the second year of Space 1999, both seasons which were considered black sheep in the show.
But again,
Yeah.
Lansbury, to be honest, I think he was considered in the industry to be like a steady hand.
That's why they brought him into Street Talk, because they needed to change to make it more dynamic, and he came in and looked at it and was able to make adjustments. And I think, I mean, not to get too off topic, but I just want to I'm mentioning this to say that I think his changes actually made the series more appealing, and it helped get it in production and all the rest of it.
Yep.
So just to say that I can see why. And obviously I don't know the reason why he was brought in to do Mission Impossible, because again, the creator of that show died, but I don't think he died until after it was over. I think it was like the late 70s or early 80s or something when he died. So I don't know the reason for him being brought in to do that. But I certainly think, it's important to have someone that's prepared to, keep the show going. And I certainly think one of the reasons I wanted to talk about here is that it was cancelled was because of a lot of shows of that time period suffered from, the government and viewers and things protesting about there's too much violence on TV. Even though I would argue that the violence in this is very comic book and, it's not grisly in any stretch of the imagination. But ultimately, that led to the cancellation of a lot of shows in the late 60s and early 70s, didn't it?
It did, and that's the shame of it. The show, remained popular. It wasn't as if it was failing ratings wise. It was just this decision about violence on TV, and unfortunately, the show was a casualty of that, as many others were.
It's always a concern, even today. It's happening with things. But with that said, it wasn't the only sort of health issue and tragedy that was on the show, because we cannot get away from the fact that one of the main stars was not in every episode.
Yeah, unfortunately, Ross Martin suffered a heart attack, which kept him out of most of the final season. The way they handled that was they tried to, the episode that he was able to do, they tried to sort of spread out throughout the season to try and make it seem that he wasn't gone for as long as he probably was. But they did try and bring in, multiple sidekicks for James West during that period. I think only one of them had more than one appearance. It wasn't the same. Yeah, Hike. And he was fine, but I think the problem is people just missed Artie. And of course, in every episode, Artie would be mentioned and, what he's doing. He's away in Washington on assignment. There's the famous sort of funny part of one of the episodes where he sends James a signed picture of himself, to say, like, don't forget me, I'll be coming back, sort of thing. And that was also, to show the viewers, he is coming back.
I don't know about anybody else that watched the show, but certainly I was watching for the shows that he wasn't in to see if that was him in the background in disguise, because they occasionally did
on
have.
The show.
What's that?
That was the running thing for Artie in the show. He always
His
has disguises.
Yes, and there was one episode where he was completely replaced by a completely different actor, but it was still supposed to be Artie. That was one of the episodes where he was ill and he was coming back. But yeah.
Mr. Jorgensen. You may be in the barn. Why don't I have a look there, Jim?
Right, Artie.
Where in blue blazes did all you folks come from? Gentlemen!
Away from the door, please. I owe both of you so much.
And there is a mural on the wall. It's been there for a number of years, but every so often I go past it on the bus or sometimes on foot near St. George's Market in Belfast. And there's a picture there that looks a lot like Ross Martin in disguise. And I will be showing you that as well. But you know, I mean, that's one of the joys of the series is Ross Martin and Artemis Gordon and his disguises, because
which he created himself. All those disguises and characters were his.
Yes, and I think you know, they put in there for his character that he likes to act and he does Shakespeare, and you know, when he is doing the performances, pretending to be an actor, a traveling actor in some cases, you know, he's putting in the performance. You know, he's like saying his Shakespeare would bring the house down, or you know, people would be captivated by his performance while Jim does something else. You know, he could distract, but you know, and he knows Shakespeare, and he's a proper thespian, and you know, so that all the elements of the character are in there, and that leads me to the next, I guess, the next section I wanted to talk about, which was the chemistry and the kind of the sort of ingredients of the characters that make the two main stars and main characters on the show work so well together as a team.
Well?
What, sir?
Announce me.
Your invitation, please, Excellency.
The proper term of address is Highness. I am the Grand Elector of Saxony.
I'm sorry, Your Highness, but no one is admitted without the proper credentials.
But everybody knows the Grand Elector of Saxony. In all the capitals of the world, I come and go as I please. I am honored and sought after. No function is successful without me. People are very fond of pointing me out as the longest in a long, long line of those who've been electing Holy Roman Emperor since 1326. Now, announce me, if you please.
I cannot without an invitation, Your Highness.
Am I to be rejected by the Albanians, of all things? I demand that you summon your prince. He will know me.
Highness.
Yes.
I am the Baroness Kolinsky. Perhaps you would share my invitation.
I would be charmed. But the gentleman, your escort.
Oh, George hates these affairs. He would much rather go out to the carriage and sleep.
Excellency, you would be doing me a great favor.
Highness. Yes, thank you. Delighted to.
Thank you.
His Royal Highness, the Grand Elector of Saxony, Baroness Kolinsky.
Come on, lady. I haven't got all day.
What's this all about?
I don't know. I had to pick up a trunk here.
There is no trunk here.
Oh, certainly there is.
There is no trunk, and we don't need an expressman.
Who are you? What is the idea of interfering in me personal business affairs and bringing me here?
What is your name?
I got a card here somewhere. It's Aaron P. McGuffey, peddler at large.
Mr. Brown, there's something about him.
Well, I should...
Vasquez, what's he carrying?
Whiskey. Whiskey, the best, the very best.
You're a smuggler.
Well, I wouldn't say that, no, sir. I'm a reformer.
But why do you want to contact this chap? I mean, if he isn't the fella behind the fuss, as you might say.
Tennyson, we don't know that.
Oh, yes, we do. Sheila said it was an educated man.
Sheila's very pretty and very charming, but I don't trust her.
Well, now, you get to be an old codger like me, you learn to admire and revere the fair sex, as I do.
I wouldn't trust you either.
Now, look here, you young whippersnapper. I may be an old man down on his luck, but I'm still a man of honor.
No, maybe a little on a cloudy day. Now, you go out and risk it. Go on out there and build a railroad.
You always tell me to go out and do something. I never know it was like.
Colonel Cross at your service, sir.
Ah, here's our Mr. Lindsay now.
Miss Bancroft. Wow, there you are. Oh, you lovely lady.
Ah.
Well done, Mr. President.
You must be one of those who didn't vote for me.
I'll never get another chance. Let's get back to the hotel, Artie.
You got somebody important coming in, Lieutenant?
No.
It must be important fellow to get all this.
No. No, he wouldn't have.
Hey, do you know where? Watch that.
I said, what in the devil are you doing in my office?
Oh, no, it's not my office at all. It belongs to one of the government big shots. You can always tell when you're in the office of one of the big government muckamucks because it needs his opinion, because they don't do enough work to mess it up, you know.
And if you want to get in touch with us, here are the many ways you can do so. We're on Twitter or X, and it's @ChatSchmat. The same on Instagram, @ChatSchmat, and we're also on Blue Sky. On Blue Sky, it's @chatschmat.bsky.social. And we've been on Facebook for a while, but we haven't really said anything about it. But here we are. It's facebook.com/chatschmat, so you can come along there. And finally, of course, as always, we're on email, and that is show@chatschmat.com. So please get in touch, and don't forget you can also comment on the videos as well.
The disguises are Artie's thing, and the fisticuffs and the looking stylish, and let's be honest, taking your shirt off are the James West side of things. I mean, let's look to our expert Ian here. I mean, let's talk about some of that.
Yeah, I mean, the way I sum it up is Ross Martin is the real actor in the show. Robert Conrad is it's the typical, square jaw leading man.
Yes, I believe he said in an interview, and I will include this as well, obviously in this episode, but it was along the lines of, I do the punching and he does the acting, something along those lines.
Yeah, and again, I think certainly during the early days there was rumors that, they weren't getting along brilliantly. I think Ross Martin felt, he was putting in all the acting work. I think it led to a bit of tension between the two, but after Ross Martin took the heart attack, I think Robert Conrad, again, I think it might have been that interview, said he realised that the show needs both of them.
It's a great dynamic, isn't it?
It is. I think he said in an interview, Artemis is one of the wilds in the Wild Wild West.
Yes, so, because they were able to riff off each other and they had their own banter, didn't they? Especially at the end of the episodes. But and when they were tied up, I mean, Neil, what is your take on their chemistry together?
Well, you get the respect and the friendship between them. Obviously, the kind of playful nature. Artie likes to get his little bit of action there with the women as well. It's not real conflict, but there's a kind of competition, healthy competition.
Rivalry,
rivalry there, but for the affections of the women. It's like, oh, come on, Jim, let me have this one. There's that kind of a vibe sometimes.
There was an odd episode where it was Artie that got the girl, but it was few and far between from what I remember.
We've got one of Hollywood's most distinguished actors as our special guest today. He's a man of many faces. One of those faces, all those faces actually, co-star every week in the TV series Wild Wild West. Let's meet him right now with a real Ross Martin. Come in, please.
So, good to have you on the show, Ross. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
How's Wild Wild West? It's looking real good.
The show is in great shape. We have, I guess
you already know, it's been announced, we've been canceled for this forthcoming season. Now there's no need. No, really. In our place, in that time slot, they've got Get Smart, the marvelously funny show. And no, it really is. It's a hip kind of show, a fun show. And in a way, I didn't even think I'd have mixed feelings about the cancellation. You know, I thought, boy, how great you're free to go out and do features and so on. But when I was notified, it's like losing a 4-year friend, and you really feel a little sad about it. The show's been on for 4 years. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah.
I understand that the people of Japan found you to be what?
There was a poll in which I was chosen the #1 television star in Japan.
Did you know that?
A Wild Wild West.
On Wild Wild West, Ross Martin's the #1 star in Japan. George, do you agree with that?
Yes. He's from Aptos, California.
But Artie was the kind of character that offered pearls of wisdom.
He did.
And he had it wasn't his. It was sort of hinted at that he didn't have an actual aunt, but he always used that because that when he was in disguise, he would say that, and then you would know that it was him in a way.
Yeah. Oh, as my great aunt Maud used to say, I think isn't it?
Yes. And the other line was, "James, my boy." He would do that every so often, where he was about to say something, you know, that was counter to what the plan was, or you know, was some kind of pearl of wisdom coming through. He said, "James, my boy."
My great aunt Maud always used to say every man should have a hobby.
When do you want me to finish?
We will walk upstairs. I'm sorry, my great aunt Maud told me never to go off with strangers.
I don't like jokes. You'll move now, or I'll shoot you 6 times.
That's introduction enough.
You buy? All right, it's on me. As my great aunt Maud always said, if you're gonna buy it all, buy the best. My great aunt Maud said to me, come on!
I will pay.
At any price. As my grand-tante Maud always used to say, to own a priceless treasure, one must first be worthy of it.
Do you know where I might get another one?
Another one?
Why? Well, I thought perhaps I might have a pair of earrings made for my Aunt Maud. You see, I've promised her that I'll bring her back some souvenir of our convention.
Good evening.
Oh, Mr. Gordon. I heard about the illness in your family.
Oh, yes, my great aunt Maud. When I got there, I found she'd made an absolutely fantastic recovery. Almost a miracle, you might say.
You don't know what it is, then?
It is just a trinket.
Yes, but you see, I was looking for one for my Aunt Maud.
I told you I do not know
She
where.
would love to have them as a pair of earrings, and if I didn't, she'd be so disappointed, don't you see?
Well, as my old Aunt Maud always used to say to me, Artemis, if you can't win the game, the next best thing is to upset the chessboard.
I'll be back tonight and we'll shove off.
Boy, as my great Aunt Maud always says, enthusiasm's a sure sign a man loves his work.
How is Aunt Maud?
She's fine, Jim, just fine.
Good. Give her my best.
Sure, Jim, sure.
See you later, Artemis.
Right.
The character Artemis Gordon is also the Q. He's also the inventor of a lot of these gadgets.
He has a science head, yeah.
He does.
He knows about explosives that, you know, you kind of forget when you're watching this that those things are ahead of their time. In the Victorian era, they wouldn't have known about stuff like that. For example, one of the things that they cover in this, which they just assume everybody knows what an atomic bomb is, but people in Victorian times wouldn't have known. So sometimes you get that sort of thing creeps in, you know, and you're just kind of like, oh, of course it's an atomic bomb. But they do try their best to kind of go, oh, this is new. This, you know, and it's something that 60s audience will know instantly, but they shouldn't know, yeah, this is new, this is something we haven't had before, but it's just a way to use it in the show. It's like, oh, pretending almost like they invented it, or a character on the show has come up with this, or Loveless has done it, you know.
Or just like they always And if it wasn't for Q Branch, Bond would have been dead long ago. I think without Artie and his gadgets, you can say the same about Jim West.
Oh, absolutely.
Because even when
how many times did that shoe get him out of jams?
what was it?
That shoe, sorry, the shoe, it was kind of like Batman's utility belt in a way, wasn't it?
Oh
Or
yeah,
a Swiss Army knife of sorts, you know. It had all
Yeah.
sorts of gadgets.
yeah, because it didn't always have the same thing in it.
You see,
It was
that's
like,
it. Every time he got into a jam, he always had the right thing to get him
which
out
is
of that
what,
jam. It's great.
which is why it's kind of like Batman's utility belt, the way it was in the '60s series, where Batman always had the right gadget in his utility belt for whatever trap he was in or situation he
And
was
he
in.
did have his grappling hook, gun that fired off the grappling hook. He kept that
Yeah,
with him
Yeah.
too,
he used
didn't
that
he?
a lot. Yeah.
James, my boy, you're grinning like an undertaker ready to dress a corpse. James, my boy, start endearing. James, my boy, you just can't win them all. James, my boy, that is a nice, useful, sort of gorgeous girl. Perfect, James, my boy, one of your smoothest smoke screens. James, my boy, this restaurant has absolutely the finest brandy in all of Denver. James, my boy, is there something you want to tell me? Oh, that's going to be a tough assignment, James, my boy. James, my boy, stone walls may possibly a prison make, but iron bars, not necessarily a cage. Hardy, are you all right? James, my boy, the most marvelous inspiration has just come to me. James, my boy, I know enough about the glittering stuff to tell you this. Those articles are the real McCoy. James, my boy, you'll never guess who we have approaching from outside at this very minute. James, my boy, if it's all the same to you, I'd just as soon stay at the Palace Hotel. James, my boy, there's a rope that's rotten to the core. Well, James, my boy, get set for a big letdown. Oh, James, my boy, I'd love to stick around, but I ask you, would it be fair to Yvette? James, my boy, haven't you always felt that the thing we needed to round out our travels is a trip to Mendoza? Oh, just if you will, James, my boy, only my grit, my pluck, and my iron determination enable me to be up and about.
Ross Martin with Wild Wild West. Your third season coming up?
Yes, we start our third season in color.
Isn't it great to be in a hit?
Oh, it's a delight.
Good. Well, it's a great show. Both of you have great shows, and I'm
Fun to do.
Live and off color.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, Bob Conrad and you are both lovers. I forget. You see, that's a very romantic comedy drama you do every Friday night.
I haven't romanced anybody on the show, except one will be this season.
From time to time, you have a little action going there.
Mostly off screen.
I know about that, yes. You said it. You remember, you said that.
But they did have ways of getting out, little bits of acid, little explosive things. But whenever Pike was there, in the episodes, it was quite obvious that he was meant to be Artie Light. All the lines that were for Artie were given to him. So in some cases and in some cases he had the explosives. And if it had been Artie, he would have been saying, "Oh, I've come up with this," but they kind of had to rewrite it. So he's almost got some of the skills of Artie when he's doing those things for plot reasons.
And also, obviously, I think he must have the same build because I think he was wearing the same wardrobe as Artie. Because I recognize some of the suits that he wore, very similar to the ones that sometimes Artie wore.
Yeah, obviously, when he's staying in town, Artie lets him just raid his wardrobe. See him bringing in all the clothes with him. From black and white to color. A lot of shows like Man from U.N.C.L.E., the black and white shows were shot like black and white, shot like noir. The episodes were grittier. Black and white adds a certain level to something. But once it comes into the pastel colors and brightness of the 60s and 70s, the sort of almost Technicolor style stuff, you're kind of going, it's like, right, we're here. But yet, for me, that's so enjoyable. I actually do love the brightness and the shininess of the color episodes compared to although I enjoy the black and white ones, but I'm just saying, it does give it a little bit more production value,
I,
just by being color.
mean, I've been rewatching it. I started rewatching it there and showing it to my mum, and my mum is like what she's seen so far. And I was saying to, we're talking about. Oh, my mum was saying, I said in the second scene it goes into color. She says it looks a bit dated in black and white, and I said to her, like, it's going to look so much more vibrant when you see it in color. And it's probably an interesting way to view it. Maybe that the color just brings it out, makes it pop.
Yeah, and I think for shows like Bewitched, and I Dream of Jeannie, they've since gone in and colorized the episodes because unlike other shows, for example, Doctor Who, where the 60s episodes that are in black and white, you know, were shot in black and white and they were deliberately like that. And if you try to colorize them too much, you have to put a lot of work in. Whereas the difference between those shows is that they just shot them in black and white because color TV wasn't the norm. Like within a year, color TV was the norm. So they were just shooting it like that because that was the format that they shot in at that time. But they really wanted to do it in color. It's the show; those shows were made for color. So when they
And
go back
also,
in and want to syndicate a series, and the first series is in black and white, it makes more commercial sense to colorize it so they can show those episodes.
and I think also when they want the color, obviously they were promoting color, so that's why you have such a big, massive splash of color.
I noticed that a lot of things like missiles and explosives were always bright red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They love their red.
As I said, I wouldn't, and obviously, I'm very mixed about colorizing black and white. I'm always an advocate for it to be viewed in the way it was originally shot.
But you can see the point why they want to colorize the likes of Bewitched and
Mhm.
I Dream of Jeannie, who only the one series was black and white, and they're so much better in color. Like Jeannie's outfit and everything looks so much. It's they were basically made for color, but it was just the fact that budget and other it was the norm to do things in black and white, especially if you don't know if the series is going to work. So it makes more sense now today to just colorize those episodes to make them match. Whereas colorizing a show that looks perfectly well in black and white, such as Doctor Who or even some of the other shows, is a bit more of a, as you say, Neil, it's a bit more of a creative quandary, isn't it?
I
As to
mean, if
whether
you
you
put the
should do
money
it
into
or
it,
not.
I mean, if you have the money and you do a good job, the recent colorizations of the Daleks and the War Games of Hartnell and Troughton's Doctors
Yes.
are, although there's mixed results on how the final edit's done, the one that I can't fault is the colorization.
Do you think it would be a good idea for them to colorize the first season of Wild Wild West to
I
release it
No.
like that?
I can't see it happening. It's not a bad idea, but I think it to me, and maybe this isn't a fair perception, but my perception is that the Wild Wild West is almost a forgotten TV show. You see it with all the releases. All the releases are very much, American Region One. You know, uh, there's not a lot of other merchandise at all really now for the Wild Wild West. So I would imagine it was probably a budget decision not to colorize the first season. I think if it was more, you know, if this box set was going to be released everywhere and they thought it would be a bit more popular, they probably would, especially if it was getting reruns on TV a lot
Oh,
more.
My
I think it
understanding
would,
is
but
my understanding is that Sony, who own the rights to Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie, they colorized it for syndication. So in other
vacation,
words,
exactly.
TV networks around the world buying it to show along with the ones that were originally in color.
Yeah.
What you're saying with the Wild Wild West situation is that the popularity compared to those other shows
Yeah.
is minuscule. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
and also the end of act break, where the final image of the act cuts into one of the four corners of the graphic. In the first season, it's like a still. It just freezes into a still,
Mhm.
but when it goes to color, it turns into like a kind of art
Yeah.
In
recreation.
Photoshop, there used to be a setting called poster edge.
Yeah,
That's
That
pretty much it.
is
Yeah.
that's what
yeah,
it
that's
is.
the
Yeah.
so they give a kind of poster edge kind of art look to the image. You know, in from the second season onwards, and obviously you'd have to re-edit it. I personally think it makes the first season stand out a different tone, as you said, gives a kind of a darker, feel.
And also, what I wanted to talk about was uh, I like to look at when I look at these things, what are the acting chops? Yes, all right, it's not an overthinking type show, but there's it's very slick. There's a lot of stunts. But were there any duds? Were there any people that like guest actors or whatever that showed up and they were just terrible? Not that the episode was terrible, but you know what I mean. You get somebody that comes in
No.
and they're maybe a bit,
No,
you know, they
there's
drag
so
the
many
episode
great,
down.
there's so many great actors in the show that it's hard to say because there's been a lot of the greats have been in the show as guest stars, so it's hard to pinpoint.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
they were very good. I think, again, yeah, you can maybe compare this to Batman a bit. They were very good with their films, making them interesting. You know, whether that's character or visually, they always made them interesting. So
yeah, I mean, there's an episode of Remington Steele where Tom Baker is a guest star, and whilst he's good in it, for a large portion of the episode, he doesn't really say anything. He's just wandering about, looking stern and stuff. So, in that sense, he was, grossly underused. But yeah, it's hard to know because in the 60s shows, Man from
Well, great
Uncle,
act-
even Mission Impossible, this one, you do see a revolving door of guest actors that show up in all these things, don't you?
you know, it's almost as if
Remember,
they go around the circuit. The
A
TV
rep.
circuit.
Yeah.
it's like an actors the actors I see guest stars Star Trek. They've been on Lost in Space. They've been on Wild Wild West. They've been on Man from Uncle. You recognize all the guest stars. And it's the same with TVs of each year. Obviously, guest stars who've been in Star Trek in the 80s and 90s and the noughties were also people you see in Diagnosed Murder, Murder Shield, X Files. They all do the guest stars have a kind of you don't know you may not remember their names, but you recognize their face
Don't forget Odo from Deep Space Nine is in the
on
two
the TV.
TV
Like British
movies.
agent. Yeah.
British
Yeah,
agent. Yeah. Would you like to
TV
see?
movies, yeah.
Would you like to see Renee as 007?
Exactly. Top of the morning, gentlemen. You remember me, Colonel Sir David Edney, British Intelligence.
I remember Captain Edney.
Ah, yes, well, in our organization, the best of us rise to the top very rapidly.
Edney, what are you doing on our train?
Well, I'm afraid I've been riding in the engine since we left Washington.
Riding in the engine? You mean you bribed Casey?
Ah, so that's his name. He refused to give me any information whatsoever. No, I didn't bribe him. I simply convinced Casey that when faced with a common danger, good allies should cooperate with each other, and he cooperated.
What about the visuals and the visual effects? Because there was a lot of props that were, when I looked up when we were watching it, that were specifically made for the show. Some of the sets were recycled from Gunsmoke and other shows that were being made there, but a lot of the actual props and I did notice that they seem to use the same set. If it's in like a house, there's two steps up and a chandelier to swing on when they were fighting.
Yeah.
Things like that. They also did reuse some shots, like where one of the ones that where if he was sliding down, maybe the bit at the start and the bit at the end were different, but the bit where he's going down was reused. Things like that. And there was anytime there was like a device or like especially Loveless, all his kind of elaborate setups and things, the death traps, there's quite a lot of, it's not just pointing a camera on a set and them acting, there's a lot of things there.
And just to pivot off that point, Robert Conrad being his own stuntman, the one thing I loved about the Wild Wild West is the fights, they were so fast paced and, furniture was breaking everywhere. It just looked rough. And of course, Robert Conrad unfortunately did get seriously injured trying to swing, I believe, from a chandelier.
We talk about Artie not being in some episodes, but there were times when I think they had to stop filming and they cut short episodes. Was it season 3 to 4? They cut and held them back. That actually worked well, given what happened with Ross Martin. They were able to have a couple more episodes that were holdovers. Ross Martin also, I should say, he also broke his leg, or at least fractured it. That was the point before his heart attack. So there was periods of time where he was walking around, and they disguised the fact. Sometimes they put it in there, and then they disguised the fact. But I know that for a period of time, they did have to have stuntmen come in and double for them. And certainly at the end, even just some of the shots where Artie is talking to people, not just Jim, but other people, it's a double. It's not actually, he's not actually, hasn't come in to film that. And often doesn't say anything back. They're just saying Artie, blah, 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 and he doesn't respond. And then if he does, it's because they've come back in after he was better and he's said it on ADR or whatever. So little things like that you notice.
But
production issues.
Robert Conrad was very, very lucky because I think he cracked his skull, didn't he?
Yeah.
Was it that serious? Well, I think you look at it, you look at the footage, and you could it's.
No, I don't think it was lucky years later, because I think towards the end of his life he was involved in an accident that I think paralyzed part of his face.
Yeah.
Yeah, he that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, he later on in life he had a crick in his neck, so he could only kind of do this. So it's not he certainly hadn't had an unscathed career in stunts.
I mean, the thing is, he didn't just do his own stunts; he choreographed a lot of the fights himself.
He rehearsed them, with the other people. That's why they had a lot of the same ones there. That you could kind of see them.
But yeah, I mean, the dedication he had to the stunts, I mean, it looked fantastic. It really did.
The audience never got hip to it. We changed their costumes, their disguises, and we used to hire the actors to fit the stuntmen. That's the truth. I had to run up the stairs, second story, jump off the stairs, grab the chandelier, do a kip, get my feet in this position, kick the bad guy through the wall, which subsequently put him out in the street somewhere, and then continue with 4 or 5 other bad guys. Well, I went 15 feet to the concrete. I had a 6-inch lineal fracture of the skull, high temporal concussion, and a broken 5th vertebrae.
I'm afraid, Miguelito. I'm afraid to die. Don't worry, my darling. Everything will be all right. We shall both live forever.
He insisted on doing his own stunts and was injured and was carted off to the hospital. And, in a very strange way, like being in that club, the injured club. I mean, it's a pretty pathetic thing to say, but there was a certain status to say it. There's my Purple Heart, babe. And Mike, he joined. So did Ross. Ross broke his arm, his leg, I believe. No one escaped injury. For our time, I say this with some humility, we were the best. I mean, we were tough, and we know it, and we didn't have to prove it. And I just want to tell you guys, if any of you are watching, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi there, thanks for stopping by. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel, because we're on a mission to get 1,000 subscribers. Helping us to do so will unlock features on the YouTube channel, including monetization. Doing so will support the channel and help us create more content, better content, and be able to do more. So, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe.
We mentioned it there, the title sequence, and the theme music as well. It's such a great. But the visuals were done by the same people who Fritz Freleng, who he was on Looney Tunes, created like Tweety Pie and stuff like that, and he did the Pink Panther animated series, but he also did the animated opening titles, to the original Pink Panther movies. So it was his company. Eventually, funnily enough, they became Marvel Animations that did like the Spider-Man cartoons and stuff and Muppet Babies and things. But at this point, they were hired to do the this is the part where you have the gun coming through, and the bit that we observe where from the second series onwards, he basically decks the woman in it for some reason.
Which,
he tries to kill him. He tried to kill him.
She's trying to kill him, yeah.
But just from today's perspective, it was kind of strange to see, wasn't it? In some ways,
Yeah, it was just obviously self-defense, but it was the fact that they made a thing of it. Like his fist gets really big, and he couldn't just take the knife off her and grab her by the arms. No, it was had to punch her.
The music is just so much fun in places. Sometimes some of the music you think, how does that fit that scene? But then you find the music so catchy it doesn't really matter,
Yeah.
You're talking about in high in the fourth season, the music kind of had more of a 60s riff or something,
Yeah, a wee bit, yeah.
Or even the music in season 3 of Batman, the music had a different feel. In the third season, it was more, kind of guitar riff, beat.
When we were watching The Man from U.N.C.L.E., a lot of the music in it became very Batman-like, didn't it?
It did.
The one thing I also wanted to mention is that the show was nominated 3 times for an Emmy. It was nominated in 1965 for The Night of the Howling Light, and that was a primetime Emmy for Best Cinematography. They didn't win. Also, in 1969, Ross Martin was nominated for Outstanding Leading Actor. Didn't win, but was nominated. What did win was the 1967 episode, The Night of the Vicious Valentine, and that was Agnes Moorehead, who went on to be Andorra in Bewitched. She was the sort of wicked mother-in-law, if you like, in that series, who was a witch, and her daughter was Samantha, who then married Darren, who was immortal. That's that show. So we've been mentioning that throughout, but there is a link as well, to that series, because the only Emmy that they won was for her appearance in it.
Speaking about Ross Martin, I have to say Ross Martin is in such a great episode of Columbo, one of the early episodes of Columbo, Suitable for Framing, where he's the killer, and it's one of the best gotchas, I think, in Columbo.
He did a lot of cartoon voices as well, and was working on that right up to his death. And I think because let's face it, he would have lived another 20, 30 years. So he would at least lived into the 1990s. But I reckon he would still have been alive, had that health not taken a tumble. But he could have been in a lot of the Disney films, or I reckon he would have been in Batman, the animated series. If he was around, I think he would have been brilliant as like some of the villains even in that.
I mean, he's born 1920, so you've been up in the same age range as, say, DeForest Kelly, James Doohan, John Pertwee, Patrick Troughton, they were working, well, Troughton died in 1987, so he wasn't that much older than Ross Martin, but DeForest Kelly lived till the end of the 90s, James Doohan lived to 2005. He could, if his health was better, he could have lived to at least the turn of the century.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think he would have.
He would have went on to do, I think, amazing things. Yeah, even more amazing things. He was just that talented.
Yeah, and what I will do as well, I'll include a little tribute to them as well. And obviously, Absolutely. it's as we're recording this, it's 5 years since the passing of Robert Conrad. and I did see some footage of him being interviewed by a guy at a convention. His sense of humor is brilliant.
It is.
He's just such a funny man.
I guess he is big. I guess he was big into his, fitness because even the killer he played in Columbo was a health freak.
You have to be. I think the thing is, you have to be when you're doing, especially when you're doing stunts. You have to be the sort of thing that he was doing anyway in his career, because not all stuntmen have to be like that. But if you're doing falls and things, but it is in your benefit to be as active as you can, because he didn't just he was active in his spare time. He did active activities, active sports and things.
I think on the set, he says, did he learn some sort of martial arts and boxing on, in between filming, and
I think he did like water skiing as well.
Yeah,
and then the fighting style changed because they said that was it season 2 where it said that it went from a karate style to a more boxing style.
Yeah,
fighting style.
Yeah, it did. I always say that the Wild Wild West sort of fighting style is very, chaotic. It's basically punches everywhere, getting chucked off and into tables, broken furniture everywhere. It looked actually quite rough in places.
This is the man who has one of the highest TV cues in television.
Who told you that?
Quotient. I read it on lots of papers.
Oh, all right.
That means that people recognize, know, and generally love him as a man's man, as the macho image of life. Isn't that right?
Stay with it, stay with it, stay with it.
Now, what we would
Can we
like...
change two things?
Sure.
Stephanie, if you don't mind. One, I'd like to be known as one of the better actors in television, not recognizable.
Oh.
And I did a show that I would very much like you to see, and the public that I've been performing for 21 years. It's called Centennial.
Yeah.
And I hope that they might see that and say that I've learned a little bit about acting.
And you're also doing the Wild Wild West again, are you not?
Yes.
A 2-hour special with Ross?
A 2-hour spot. I couldn't do it without Ross.
Yeah. Right.
He's one of the wilds.
Indeed.
And Wild Wild West.
Well, let's not be sneaky. Let's bring Ross out.
He's around the
All right. Ross Martin, ladies and gentlemen.
Ross Martin.
Move over closer, Ross. She's cute. A little tall, but she's cute.
Ross Martin is the actor I remember from Experiment in Terror, which you were nominated for an Oscar in that role, were you not?
Yeah, I was nominated for the Best Supporting, not for an Oscar, but for a Globe Award.
Oh, that's right.
And I was in Spain at the time doing a picture with Lawrence Harvey. But that was a scary picture.
Ooh, it was.
Are you looking forward to the remake of Wild Wild West?
Very
I know
much
we
so.
are. I love that series.
Thank you, very much so. First of all, there's something that we've rapped about it for years.
Yeah.
There's a magic that happens every now and then between two performers. And McLachlan and Lowe had it years ago when they were a team. I hate to, make comparisons because television, it's a whole different medium, and it's a very intimate medium. We're right in the laps of the audience at home. Sure. Most people watch us, through their feet. Isn't that true? You're lying down in an easy chair with your feet up and watching television. But there was something very special about that show. And at the time we were doing it, we were so deeply involved in it. I wasn't aware, were you, Bob,
I was drunk. As you know.
We were trying to survive, really. He says that he wasn't drunk. He was Fridays.
Friendly. Do you think time can in any way infringe on that relationship? Do you think it'll be difficult to get it back?
We've been friends, since the closing of that thing, and I think whatever magic we had, we hope to catch echoes of it, particularly since we're not trying to catch exactly the same circumstance. It's these two guys 10 years later.
Yes, you're playing yourself older.
Yeah,
right?
They move slower, and you hit a guy and he doesn't go down. And you make a pass at a girl and she giggles in your nose, So there's some cute things that happen in it.
You know, then the macho factor we were talking about before, whether you...
He gets it again. He gets it back. They're not going to let him sit without a girl for too long.
Will the trousers be just as slim for Bob, do you think, this time around?
I'm on my diet right now.
He's going to drop the weight.
Yeah, I want the little tight pants again.
Yes, well, you had to gain 20 pounds for Centennial, right?
I gained 20 pounds for Centennial, but there's a flamenco dancer in Spain, and he wants me to wear those tight pants.
Yeah.
Whatever he wants. I need audience for this show.
We understand that... We understand that they asked Bob years ago when they began to shoot Wild Wild West to do some of his own stunts, but he was a little afraid of them, and so he asked that his friend Red West be brought in to do the stunts. Isn't that the way the story goes?
If you say so, you're the hostess, my darling.
We'd like to meet Red West. Is he hanging around the corner
I
somewhere?
don't know. I'm not his mother. I don't know
I'm
where Red
sure
West
he is. Ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome Red West?
I think he's here.
Hi, good to see you. Hi, John. It's great to be here with my acting teacher and my drinking teacher.
I gotta find you guys later.
You notice he's not telling you which is which, for Pete's sake. We used to bend it pretty good come Friday.
I think you can tell Red is not the kind of guy you mess around with. We were in the green room, and I said to Bob, is this the guy that I'm supposed to punch out? And he said, no, he's the guy who takes care of my light work. Did you do stunts for Bob in this?
Well, let me see. This was one stunt at the piano.
Now, you're going to go back then and work on the Wild Wild West with these fellas?
He'd better. I'll probably be there somewhere.
You know, it may be tougher for them, but it's got to be deadly for you these years, doesn't it? Doesn't it really?
It's taking its toll.
Are they going to hire some more younger stuntmen to...
You're all Red! You heard her! Some more younger! Next thing she's going to say is I'm short. Never.
How did you meet Bob and Ross and get involved with these characters, having been involved with Elvis Presley at the same time, weren't you?
Well, yes. I met Bob through Elvis playing touch football.
You call it touch. Really? I had another word for it. I call it kill, you maniac.
Elvis was playing touch football with Bob?
Elvis was playing, and in order to get to Elvis, you had to get by Red, honey. And I'm from Chicago, see, and we don't go for that celebrity status stuff. I figured he's just a man, got 2 legs, 2 arms, I'm gonna grab him. Red said, but he's my man, baby. You ain't gonna grab nothing. And it wasn't fun. I still remember it. It was years ago.
You've stayed good friends all the way through this stuff.
Not that day.
But you continue to drink together to forget all the pain.
No, I made a long-distance call that day. I said, listen, Menudo, this one of these hillbillies tried to kill me today. I said, where? He said, on the football field. Well.
But why did the friendship develop? It could have just as easily been a rivalry or dislike of each other.
I think it was guilt. Bob had to throw Red in one of the scenes. It was this big fight.
What a great scene. Ross was in that too.
Tremendous fight sequence. And Red was playing the heavy in this thing, doubling somebody and doing the stunt. And Bob grabbed him and threw him down a bar length, wasn't it?
Yeah,
into
bar
a
length.
piano. And there was something there that wasn't supposed to be there. Yeah. And Red hit it and went right into the piano and opened his head. I mean, we thought sure that in technical it would be unusable. It would look like the whole head's bloodied out. You couldn't see anything. You couldn't see anything. But how many stitches did that take?
Oh, about 60, I don't know, inside and out. But the first face I remember seeing is him. My God. Blood.
Can I do Ross for you?
I thought it was a well.
Ross is...
I was pale.
Is, in my opinion, in the same category in league with Richard Chamberlain, one of the great actors. And the reason that we love that show is because we gave it all both knees, it's called. And I love him as an actor. As a person, well, anyway,
best you can.
We're doing the sequence, right? And Ross was always so disciplined. I was always looking for the phone, you know, to say, hey, I want to buy a stock. Well, I know from a stock, but it was impressive. People got impressed. Now, Red goes, hits the thing, and Ross goes, oh! Oh, my God!
I thought he'd killed it.
Oh, that was a tough time.
I was doing my macho man.
Sure.
What is it? I went, oh, my goodness. Can he sue?
The fight scenes were very slick on the show.
They were.
You know, and as typical as a lot of leading men, this was one man, but he was able to punch out 5 or 6 people. You know, that's what I love about it. It's so ridiculous.
I mean, 60s TV, they always say there's 60s TV has a certain style of fighting, But when you think about it, it's a kind of fighting style that, they're really going for it. They're not trying to be super slick
And I
with it
think
all. They're
I've got a note here that Robert Conrad said, his great wardrobe. The problem was that the pants were so tight that when he got into fight scenes, the amount of rips, that they had to stop filming and, repair and with the trousers being so tight.
That is a problem, isn't it, really?
Yeah, but it was all part of James West style. So
And so, yeah, so this what happened was then the series itself got cancelled and fans moved on. But something happened about 10 years later. They brought it back. A lot of shows do this. I remember the Dukes of Hazzard did it. They made in the 80s and 90s, several reunion movies, and obviously everyone they make, more of the cast have passed away. But The Incredible Hulk did it. You know, it's not unusual for a show to do a reunion movie, but this became, you know, more than that, didn't it? It was almost became another series in itself. What do let's turn to our expert Ian to fill us in more on this.
So when they brought the show back or done the reunion shows, there was two TV movies, and again, apparently the ratings showed that the series was still as popular as ever. Now the two TV movies, I think they 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 were a wee bit more what's the word? I don't know if camp's the right word, Neil, but they were certainly a bit more
tongue in cheek.
Tongue in cheek. Now, don't get me wrong, Artie and James still play everything straight. But either way, they were very popular, and they sort of poke fun at their age a bit. That they're two grizzled veterans, and maybe they're past it. But again, very popular. So my understanding was that they started negotiating with the actors to reprise the series. Now, unfortunately, as we know, Ross Martin would, passed away, so it never happened. But it just that's what amazes me, that the show stayed that popular, but yet nowadays, there's very little fanfare about the show.
I mean, I have a feeling there's people who watched the Will Smith film who weren't even aware of the TV series.
That was me.
Think there's, and as you, but I'm sure there's a generation of people who are working in the industry. Like I've said to you a few times, see someone of the caliber who work on TV now, if they were brought in to revive the Wild Wild West, they'd probably take the cues more from the Will Smith film than they would from the 60s TV series.
Oh yeah. I mean, anyone I've talked to, whether it be work or at different sort of sci-fi conventions, when I bring up the Wild Wild West, it's always, oh, I've seen that Will Smith movie, and I just go, oh.
Will Smith is the albatross around the neck of this show.
In a way, yeah. I just think it's a real shame that that people don't talk about this show more. Maybe it's because maybe it's because the perception of westerns is they're a bit old hat, and I don't know what it is. But
the funny thing is, Bill Murray said in a recent interview there that he, because obviously people like him get asked questions all the time, and I think it was Drew Barrymore asked him, what is there something you haven't done that you'd like to do? And he said, I haven't done a western, and I'm talking to Wes Anderson trying to get him to do a western because I'd love to do one. So I think there is room for a western, and we certainly had some TV shows over the last 10 years that have tried it. I mean, I haven't seen Yellowstone, but I've seen Longmire, and that's an example of like a modern western. So
yeah,
it's doable, very, very doable.
Yeah,
I think westerns have the visual style of westerns has certainly changed. There's a very studio, very technicolor, style of western, which was your 50s, 60s style westerns, and then in the later years, especially with Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven and stuff, and Tombstone, they become more gritty. Even Back to the Future Part 3, going back to the Western, Wild West is a kind of love letter to the Hollywood golden era of Westerns.
Yes, because they kind of mock him for his outfit, don't they? When he,
and then the outfit, and then obviously he gets the man with no name, the from the spaghetti westerns, which is another genre in itself of westerns.
the casual viewer might not realize this, but there was a phase of when the Bond films were around. There was a phase of spy shows, some of them set in the modern day, in the 1960s, some of them, like this one, set in the past. But it was a thing, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. is a, has a direct link to Ian Fleming. And although he was never involved in the show itself, but, the character name Solo, and also I think they would have liked him to have done something, but he couldn't. It's like now it's all tech stuff and hacking, and that's
also,
the kind of theme that people take.
And then even when they did a revival, Guy Ritchie did a movie on The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Back in 2015, must have been like 10 years. And although it wasn't very successful, but they kept it in the 60s. The reason why James Bond has survived up until now, is that it's kind of changed with the times. It's kind of been inspired by the genres over the years that have come up while each Bond film was in production. Obviously Moonraker was heavily influenced by the success of Star Wars and Close Encounters. And License to Kill was taking some influence from some of the more drug cartel movies that were happening in the 80s, and obviously Daniel Craig wants to take influence from the Jason Bourne films. So there's so their influence. I mean, even Live and Let Die, came out in 73, was heavily taking influence from the blaxploitation era. So one of the reasons I Bond has survived is because it's kind of mixing in these styles, where the 60s itself was when the spy craze was at its peak, if that makes sense.
Jim West.
Professor, it's a pleasure.
Come down to see some of my little toys, have you?
Yes, sir, I have.
I got some dandies here, all the latest ones. Even a fighter like you can use the latest ones. Now look here, at the base, a little barrel.
Who are you? James West, United States agent. Oh, please don't stop. What's the address?
I think it's in the 700 block. If anybody would have what you're looking for, they would.
Thank you very much, if I can ever return the favor.
Yeah, I'll do that.
What you got there for me, Henrietta?
You, what are you doing there? Nobody's allowed in there.
Well, I've got permission. Bombs are like women, gentlemen. You should never let them know you don't trust them.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Come to face death tomorrow. I could use a bit of comfort this night. Well, Mr. West, how did you know about this place?
I just couldn't wait until tonight.
You know, Jim, I think you might fit right in here with us. But there's one problem. Gypsy men are extremely jealous, especially of outsiders.
All right, take care of myself.
Oh, you weary me, West.
I'm sorry. Any particular reason?
Many reasons. You weary me with the sight of your strong, straight body. You weary me with your smug, neatly ordered mind. Actually, not the worst I've ever encountered.
A poor thing, but my own.
You weary me with your selfless, ant-like devotion to a society that no longer deserves it.
You're not going to run out of reasons now, are you, Doctor?
You weary me by being, by existing, by your uncanny talent for appearing at exactly the right place at the wrongest possible time.
Bond really kick-started this off. It's not like this was never a thing, but you had obviously Simon Templar, who isn't a spy, but in some of the episodes they've kind of made him into a spy because the government or a king or whoever it is asking him to do something, you know, for the country or whatever it is. You know, for him, he's a playboy that makes money and goes on adventures. You know, whereas certainly Wild Wild West, they're working for President Grant. President Grant appears in the show as well, but they're given missions by, you know, senior officers, and it's all military related and Civil War related too. You know, so for an American watching it, that's their history. You know, so they would have got a kick out of mentions of people that were, you know, still alive when the show's set. You know, and they could have fun with that on the show. You know, they could have fun with people that during the Civil War are supposed to be still alive during that, and they did do that. You know, they had certain episodes. I mean, there was an episode where they talked about like some kind of beast or werewolf or something. You know, they mixed in different genres as well. You know, it wasn't strictly spy and on a mission. You know, they threw in even some Sherlock Holmes stuff, myths. You know, creatures, sea creatures, you know, all sorts of, one of my favorite, and this is to kind of close up, I just want to ask, one of my favorite arty disguises was the sort of salty sea dog look, you know, with the beard and everything. What was your favorite, Ian, I'll start with you. What was your favorite arty disguise, if you have one?
Ooh. Well, again, I was going to say the sea dog, but seeing you said that, I liked it when he played the old man.
Yes.
You know, who would just ramble.
Oh yes.
And
yes,
sort of make
yes.
fun of youngsters, and you know, sort of talk under his breath almost at them, and you know, crunch up his face, and
Yeah.
they were my favorite. Yeah.
What about yourself, Neil?
Well, I don't just say I don't know, tone nor type as the when he plays the royalty figures or and he seems to be having a great time pass himself off as in those roles, as a general
Yes.
or as
Because
the king.
when he does that, he treats people, sometimes the villain or the minions of the villain, the henchmen. He talks down to them because he thinks he can get away with it, being in a position higher than he is. So he uses that to his advantage, which is obviously has plenty of comedy value to it.
Or when he dresses up as President Grant, that's also interesting.
Oh yeah, that's a good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
mean,
when you only the one where he's being used as a kind of setup, so it looks like Grant's been killed.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. It's there's just so many, isn't there? And
there is
the James, my boy, thing. The whole sort of dynamic between them sells the show. Even in a mediocre episode, the banter and stuff, lifts it. It's the same. It's the same. With any sci-fi show, if the characters are good, then that lifts whatever the story is. That lifts it above it.
It does.
So there you have it. That is our look at the 1960s TV show Wild Wild West. And that's not it, though, because we have a special dedicated website that you can go to where we'll have links to this and the Will Smith movie episode and just our little bit of fun. And it's wildwildwest.meme, M-E-M-E. Details are on the screen. And you can also email us, show@chatschmat.com. We love any comments. And speaking of comments, it would be great if you've got any memories of the show, or if you're going to watch the show, if this randomly came up in your YouTube feed and you go, what the hell is this? And it's made you think, right, I'm going to watch that show. Let us know. Anything you want, add in the comments, anything constructive, and we'll read, and that would be wonderful. But sadly, we've come to the end of the show. And from me, Johnny Porter, I want to thank you, as always, for joining us. We are on a push to get more subscribers, so please help us with that. Like, comment, and subscribe. But for me, that's it. Until next time.
Guys, thanks very much. I really hope you've enjoyed this little sort of trip down memory lane, that a show that I really love and really feel has kind of been forgotten about. So this was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on.
Like Ian said, it's been a lot of fun in doing this because I've enjoyed watching the show, and it's a shame that it's not being shown on TV now. So I hope that a lot of you who are watching this video do discover this show, and I hope to see you all again.
Bye.
Bye.
See you next time, folks.
First mate, he got drunk. He broke up the captain's trunk. Constable had to come and take him away. Sheriff Johnstone, please let me alone. Please let me alone. I feel so break up. I want to go home. So hoist up the John B. sail. See how the mainsail sets. Send for the captain ashore, Lord, let me go home. Let me go home, let me go home. Oh, let me go home. Let me go home. I feel so break up. I want to go home.
Thank you.
Well, cheery bye all, for now.
If I must go, I'd much rather go a conventional way, such as...